America's North Woods border region. Within this land of 10,000 lakes and miles of dense timber, a hideous creature is believed to lurk.
The North Woods is probably one of the last frontiers in America. There's still a lot of places in this area that hasn't been set foot by man. Monsters and mysteries exist here because it is remote.
Up in the North Woods, winters are long. In times of biting cold and isolation, a devouring monster is believed to come forth. It's terrorized native people for generations.
Growing up, I was told, like, don't go outside, the Wendigo will get you.
Among the traditions of the northern Algonquin tribes is the Wendigo, a monster that can seize hold of a person to carry out its hunger for human flesh.
Many Native Americans fear even talking about this Wendigo, and even the mention of the name will let the Wendigo find out where you are, and it will open you up to be possessed by this Wendigo.
The most famous case of a Wendigo possession took place in 1879 in the deep woods outside of Edmonton, Alberta. Swift Runner, a Cree Indian, was a trapper and a guide. He had left town the previous autumn with his wife, 6 children, and his mother. But when Swift Runner returned in spring, he was alone.
Swift Runner came into a nearby village telling this heartbreaking tale.
I had to watch them starve to death.
Of his family being killed by starvation, and that he was the only survivor.
My whole family gone.
It wasn't hard to understand a family falling victim to a brutal winter.
To even not.
Yet something was suspicious about Swift Runner.
He was a strapping man, and he came into town weighing over 200 pounds. It didn't look like somebody who had just weathered a terrible winter. He wasn't malnourished, didn't look like he was starving. He looked healthier than ever.
After a few nights, it became clear that something was wrong.
He started having night terrors, screaming in his sleep.
I am the Wendigo!
Villagers alerted the police.
Swift Runner actually guided them back to his winter cabin. When they got there, that's when they saw the true horror. Human skulls were scattered around, many bones, some of which had been snapped in half, and the marrow inside had been drained. They had never seen anything like it. Swift Runner had killed his entire family, shooting them, hitting them with an axe, strangling, and then eating most of their bodies.
Right up until the moment the noose was on his neck, Swift Runner swore the evil spirit of the Wendigo had possessed him and twisted him into a cannibal killer.
When he was on the gallows, Swift Runner himself said, "I am no longer a man."
Hi, Larry.
Hey, Graham.
Hi, my name is Graham Resnick. I'm a filmmaker, writer, director, sound designer, and I started working with Larry Fessenden about 10, 15 years ago through my friend Ty West, who I grew up with, and have done a lot of sound design with on his films. And he was producing Ty's films at the time, and Ty introduced me to Larry. Larry produced my first feature, and we've written together on several projects.
My name is Larry Fessenden. I'm a filmmaker. I run Glass Eye Pix, which is an independent production company out of New York. We make indie movies, a lot of scary movies as well. I got a call to audition to write this video game. And I called my pal Graham Resnick because Graham's a gamer, and while I thought I could offer something to the idea of writing this multi-branching story, I knew that I would want Graham's expertise as a lover of gameplay, since I guess games were started. So
and just as a lover.
And as a lover, yes. Which is why there's so many sex jokes in the game.
There was one Italian website that did say the Larry
that's
Fessenden
right.
and Graham Resnick, the two lovers behind Until Dawn.
Come here. Maybe I know how to handle you too.
I am definitely ready to be handled.
So I wanted Graham by my side. Yeah, and we got the gig, and it's been an amazing ride.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh my god, she's taking her shirt off. What? Oh my god. Matt, what are you doing here?
Hannah.
I'm sorry, Hannah. This all got
Don't
out of
worry,
hand, but
So in the game, the basic setup is that a year prior to the game's start, all these kids had gone up to a ski lodge that was owned by the parents of one of the kids, or a couple of the kids, and some of the teenagers played a prank on some of the other teenagers, and a terrible tragedy occurred when a few of them, two sisters, ran out into a blizzard, and were never seen from again. So now, a year later, this is kind of torn apart, this group of friends. They've gone through.
Hi, this is Lee Robinson, production designer on Until Dawn. The production design for Until Dawn started with the great teen horror script that sets the characters in a Canadian winter mountain lodge, being a contemporary setting with visual clues derived from classic films of that genre, such as Hitchcock's Psycho and Stanley Kubrick's Shining. The storyboards are vital to the production design, as it allows the designer to understand the scale of the environments to be made and the detail that would be seen to create the atmosphere of a horror. This took us into concepts that took these storyboards further, visualizing colour palette, the lighting, tone and the mood, and developing key locations such as the lodge, the cable car stations, the forests themselves, the wilderness. As you can see, the environments and atmospheres change quite a bit from warm and inviting to cold and threatening. The Millionaire's Mountain Lodge was a key example. It was designed to be made from nearby stone and timber, embedding it into the landscape, with a contrasting and contemporary interior needing to be opulent and extravagant. We created dark and claustrophobic corridors with ominous and large open spaces, almost cathedral-like in size, and with huge structures to silhouette and dwarf the characters within, providing a labyrinth to explore and wander. Each character was developed with a strong visual identity in mind, with contrasting colours, tones and silhouettes to identify them, each to have their own texture, pattern and shape, so that when they were lined up you could always identify them. The costume designs allowed a range of clothes that would suit them for the cold winter weather, but also have an element of style and individualism, so that the audience could look at them and relate, recognizing themselves within them.
A lady would like to cuddle up with her man by a nice cozy fire bathed in atmospheric mood lighting.
right. It'll get plenty toasty once we're rubbing up against each other.
Mike,
Yeah.
fire and mood lighting.
Yes.
Working with the lighting artists, we really brought the look and feel of the world together, and this required a thorough understanding of the visual language of teen horror. A key scene was where all the characters emerge out of the rear of the lodge chasing Hannah. A contrast is evident straight away from the exterior wilderness to the warmth of the lodge. The attention to character lighting here is through the bounce and rim lighting, accented colours and composition, creating characters that come from the dark into the light and back again with an emotional effect.
Guys, there's someone outside. What the hell?
Hannah!
What's going on? Where's my sister going?
It's fine. She just can't take a joke.
It was just a prank, Han.
Until Dawn is a game that's full of horror, and one of the things we decided to do early on was to take a scientific approach to how scary it was. So we did experiments on people and we measured their responses to the game. We've created a test area. It's as close to a home setup as we can get it. We've recruited ordinary people to play the game and we've left them to play it on their own.
You're turning the light on.
The only difference is it's rigged with cameras and microphones that relay the data through to the next room where people are watching them play. Bracelet here we use for biometric testing. It measures the player's emotional response. It's called a galvanic response sensor. It makes contact with the user's skin and it measures the electrical conductivity across their skin. It's the same principle as an old-fashioned lie detector. When you're stressed, you sweat a little, very sensitive. It picks up tiny changes if the player is feeling anxious or scared. That data's fed back to a testing team. It comes through as a graph.
So sorry.
There's no point testing one or two people, you have to test a lot of people.
Okay, what's your step?
When we have a scare that's consistently has a measurable emotional response, then we knew it was good. If it didn't have that, it goes back to the team for improvement. The data doesn't tell us what's wrong with the scare, it only tells us if it's working or not.
Wait, okay, so you hear that too, right? Josh.
Here we have a chapter relatively early in the game.
Weirdly regular.
Nothing regular about it.
We have to create tension and anxiety in the player so they are ready to receive the scare. Give the player time to recover, to cool down, to calm down, and then start building the tension again before we do the next scare.
Hey.
What?
Hey.
What the hell?
Ooh, you just got mugged.
Yeah, I have such an adrenaline high from that game.
There's two things we found. One is we could look at the scares, analyse if our expected scares were working effectively. Were people shrieking and covering their hands, or were they getting an emotional response from it? And being scientific about it means that we strip out people's opinions about whether things are working or not. We've got data, and we look at the data. If it's working, we're happy with it.
Really scary.
Bit scared and wanting to get away.
I actually be maybe a bit scared to play on my own, but
in a room with the lights on, yeah, with some other people as well, yeah, maybe.
But because I'm a scaredy cat, I would play with someone in the room. And the lights on.
It was one of the scariest games I've played in a long while.
Just move over there. Go on, move. Let me say what I came to say. I'm here to tell you what you're up against being back on this mountain. You should never have returned. I don't know why you did after what happened last year.
You mean with Hannah and Beth?
Yeah, how could you know without being involved?
I don't take kindly to you kids coming up here to my mountain.
Your mountain.
The mountain don't belong to me, it's true. But it don't belong to the Washingtons. This mountain belongs to the Wendigo.
Hi, this is Lee Robinson, production designer at Supermassive Games. Understanding the ancient myths of the Wendigo was key for their development that helped the visual look. Through sketches and concepts, these elements were visualized, such as eyes being milky, almost dead, with loss of lips and eyelids due to frostbite, fangs growing and arms and legs getting longer, with skin hardening and thickening to look snarling and menacing, yet withered and lean.
What the hell was that? Another fucking piece of...
Fingers and toenails extending like claws, allowing them to climb effortlessly. We made them look gaunt and weathered, and having ragged remains of clothes they wore. Blood-stained and rotten, with patches of hair still remaining, they retained strong skeletal limbs, which enable them to be agile and quick through the environment.
Where are you?
My name is Jamie Gallipo, Animation Director at Supermassive. The overall direction on the creature was to be very strong, to be extremely fast. We wanted a spider-like movement to the creature. 1 minute scampering to leaping and then crawling, almost instantaneous. And finally, we wanted the creature to have this real, uncontrollable thirst for flesh.
From a sound design perspective, the Wendigo is a real challenge. For the main vocalisations of the Wendigo, we used our own vocalisations, various different animals from the exotic to the farmyard, various plugins and processes to gel these sounds together and keep a human resonance behind that voice, telling the backstory of the Wendigo. During the chase sequences, the anger of the Wendigo is felt by encircling breaths, screams and screeches that essentially chase you as you're being chased by the Wendigo. We would layer them up in a multitude of layers, sometimes 15, 20 sounds playing at the same time, to build up the vocalizations for this fearsome creature which is always in attack mode, hyperactive and chasing you throughout the game.